And then the hit and run happened last season, and then we didn't dissect it week by week, but it's not as flattering as material after that. But I'm very curious how people are going to react to the storyline this year, because I feel like there were a couple. I genuinely do like Dana, but there were a couple of moments this season where I was like,
"Oh yeah,
you're being so stupid," and it's the stupidity of youth, which God, that makes me sound ancient. And I'm not ancient, but the thing is,
but it's not just it is, but it's also like, why are we spending time with you if it's not in relation to what you've been through?
I think it's to make. I think and I haven't spoken with Howard and Alex about season 3, but I kind of feel like my impression from watching them was kind of just showing this is another casualty of what Brody has done to begin with. And so, I mean, I kind of imagine when he comes back on scene, that'll significantly decrease. I mean, obviously, I have not seen beyond the first 2.
Right.
Soon. I can't imagine that when he comes back and then they actually start kind of dealing with what season 3 is, because I'm not entirely sure what like the end game of season 3 is. Like, in the beginning of season 1 and season 2, you had an idea of, okay, this is, or at least you thought you had an idea of where this is leading up to. Obviously, season 2 kept changing things around so drastically that it ended up not necessarily being what you thought. But I just don't even know where they're going. So I feel like once we get a clearer agenda of what this season is, and once Brody comes back, and that also takes away time, the fact will be that there will not be time. Maureen is also very
it also depends though on bringing him back to the show is not the same thing as bringing him back into his family. Like he's going to be on the show, but he's still in hiding for a good portion of it.
I'd imagine.
So he'll be alone, or he'll be with new people. We're not going to be seeing necessarily how they're responding directly to him.
Right.
And that also, I mean, that sets up that this season really is its own thing. It's almost a new show because so much of the show has relied on him and Carrie and their relationship and their chemistry and how focused on each other they became for the good and the bad.
Right.
And they don't have that now because they're physically separated, and even if they're thinking about each other, it's a very different.
Very much thinking about each other.
Right, but it's a very different.
No, absolutely.
Scene than if they're standing in front of each other. So.
Right. Absolutely.
But there's something that really has interested me, looking at what the show has become in the sense that there's a second attack that our real world did not see. They've created this fake attack, and they're putting it on someone who is guilty of a lot of things, but is not necessarily guilty of this one.
Right.
And to me, what I want from the show is I want to see them have to deal with that. I want to see the fact that sometimes this government and police and whoever in general needs that scapegoat. And what does that mean? What does that mean for what they're letting go? Because if Brody didn't actually do this, there's a bigger threat out there that you're still ignoring, and that we've been ignoring effectively for years. Like they were so focused on one set when really there's a lot of them. And we've seen with Abu Nazir, and I would argue, and not to get too political, but I would argue in our real world too, you see with Osama bin Laden, you can kill the head of whatever the sect is, but there's hundreds or thousands of people under them that are now angrier.
Right.
And still, maybe they don't, somebody may rise to be the leader or not, but they still want to enact whatever it is, revenge or just other destruction. And how much is the show going to deal with the aspect of looking forward the way that it has in the past? That it started to track Brody, and it started to say, we think he's a threat, and we want to try to avoid something happening.
Right.
Now that something has happened, how much of it is, and we see in the first episode, a scramble to get people that are talented, that can even do this job, that are qualified to fix some of what's been destroyed, versus to look ahead and to say, again, let's try to avoid. Like, if we're constantly trying to cover our ass or constantly trying to make up ground and time, we're going to be screwed forever.
Right.
So that stuff is so fascinating to me, and I don't, I'm happy to go wherever the show takes me for that, but I want to see more of that than I want to see, like, at home with the Brody family, and even at home with Carrie. Like, I don't need to see her dad and her sister. Like, I like seeing her, and I like seeing her respond, like, her alone time, because of how she problem solves and how she deals with things, and when she's on her meds or when she's off her meds, the way she works is very different, and you can tell immediately from her face whether she's on her meds or off her meds, and it's fascinating to watch. But I want it focused more, I think, on the politics, where, in the past year they've gotten a little away from it, and we see that doesn't, good things don't happen when you get away from it.
Yeah, we'll have to see where they take us the rest of.
So excited!
I know. Be wary of people being on posters.
What? Whatever. And I want to know what the shaved head's about, because I have a big theory, but he's not talking about it, so we'll have to see. All right.
Yeah.
And Danielle at Danielle TBD.
I'm Marisa.